check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it. So explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it. No scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool. Hear my heartbeat beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones. Bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursue it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host, Nick Bernabe, here on UCY.tv. Really happy to be back alive and well on this Monday, February 26, 2018. Crazy time to be alive, crazy time to be in the United States, and I'm sure everyone else listening from around the world, I'm sure it's pretty intense where you're at too, because we're dealing with a bunch of headwinds. We've got all this great access to technology, all this great access to information. Many people are abusing this technology. And that's really a huge part of the human struggle. We're going to talk a bit about that tonight. I'm not going to do a full show tonight just because I'm flying solo and DB and Jake are out. Jake wanted me to let everyone know that he had a date tonight. So we'll be back on Wednesday with a full show. But there was some news stuff I wanted to cover tonight that just needs to be talked about because everything is still all about the shooting. And of course, we talked about that on our last show and just how frustrating the whole situation is, the debate being had, and the gun control, the arm the teachers or put cops in schools, turn schools into prisons. Very, very superficial, I would call it, a superficial debate going on regarding gun violence in the United States, specifically these school shootings that appear to be just keep happening. Unfortunately, mass shootings, and of course the Las Vegas thing is still fresh on the memory. That's people are still trying to figure out what the hell happened there. We still don't know all the answers. Don't know all the answers with the school shooting either. I mean, it's it's just the more you find out, the more disappointed you get. I mean, we hear there was a cop, the actual cop that is already in the school. So like half of the debate being had here is, oh, well, we need to, arm the schools and, put cops or, someone in there with a gun. Well, that debate is like extra superficial because there was an actual guy with a gun at the school that was supposed to defend it, and then he didn't do anything. In fact, he pretty much was hiding. And then we got a story on the Anti-Media today. The guy came out and gave a statement. I think it may have been through his union official or something, and he said, quote, "I'm no coward." Yeah, you're not a coward. You didn't run into the school to save these kids. You probably could have prevented, 10 deaths or maybe more, 15. Maybe one or two people get shot. He runs in and stops the guy. I mean, So a lot of the debate is very, very superficial on that front. Arming teachers, arming schools, building huge perimeters around schools, and putting surveillance cameras in there. I mean, geez, dude, it's like turning these schools into prisons. And I, for one, I see this, I don't have any kids yet, but I see what's going on with these schools, and I'm like, geez, why would I even want to put a kid in there? They're putting armed guards. They want to arm the teachers. There's like a huge perimeter fence around it. They got surveillance cameras. It's like, what the hell am I putting my kid into? Head first into a police state, right? Conditioning. And I get it. It's well-intentioned. Oh, we're doing it to protect the kids, but is it worth the price of turning the damn education into a prison system? I don't think it is. I really don't. But there's other stuff going on besides the shooting. Before I go on, I want to send a huge, huge shout out to our supporters and our readers, our patrons, our listeners. You guys have really stepped up for us this month, and we've been dealing with all this crap with Facebook and Google. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've applied for Google News at this point, and they just keep shutting us out, never giving us a reason. 25, 30 times now I've probably applied. They're probably getting sick of me. Facebook, it's not only us either. With Facebook, they've cut all publishers down, like even just regular publishers, like mainstream people have seen a reduction in reach. Facebook is trying to grapple with its problem. It's going through a period of shrinkage right now. Funny way to put it, but people, I don't know, I guess it's just one of those things where you get tired of something. And I know I'm tired of Facebook. I know a lot of my friends are tired of Facebook. I know many, many people I talk to are just like sick of it. I don't know if it's the crappy debates, it's the vulgarity, the trolls, probably a bunch of different reasons why people are so fed up with Facebook right now. For me, it's just tired old content that I keep seeing, and after this shooting, it's just all the same recycled memes over and over again. Not enough genuine conversations. Too many people being, just trolling and shit like that. Which, fine. You want to troll? You want to troll? That's what you want to do. But because of this, Facebook is trying to figure out, okay, well, what do we need to do to change around the experience, the newsfeed, and what people are seeing on Facebook, so that we can stem the tide of people leaving. And part of that is what ended up. Now, we've been in the crosshairs of Facebook for a long time. I mean, there was a point in time where their flagging system was super sensitive, where we were having admins banned once a week. One time our whole page got banned at the same time. All the admins. I mean, the page was still up, but the admins got banned, right?
You're such a rebel.
Seriously, right? Oh, shit. We got DB on the call. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. Just been putting in 10, 12-hour days, probably just like you do, and it's just kicking my ass, dude.
Well, thanks for joining, bro. I thought you might not be on tonight, but glad to have you. So, with Facebook trying to tinker with the newsfeed, they've been going after us for a long time now. It's just really nice that you guys have stepped up to help support us. We've got let me check the most recent number here. 135 patrons. So 135 people are anti-media patrons supporting us monthly with a small monetary donation.
Maybe someone should hit up John McAfee for some Bitcoins.
Seriously, right? We accept, anyone listening tonight, we accept cryptos. Go ahead, and if you want to send us some, we're more than happy to. accept. Go to the About section on the antimedia.org, go to support us, and you'll be able to send us some crypto, not just Bitcoin.
Hey, didn't SM interview him? I think SM needs to make a fundraising call.
Yeah, he did, actually. That was a pretty interesting interview, too. McAfee's an interesting guy. So, that out of the way, the shooting stuff out of the way, top story on the Anti-Media, opinion piece by Kerry Wedler. Americans are horrified by mass killings unless the government is doing it. Now, this is just This is just a simple observation that, you know, it's just like the debate that's being had. It's like, oh, well, put the cops in the schools. It's like, wait, weren't we just having, before the shooting, weren't we having a debate about getting, you know, dealing with this issue of police violence? Like, cops are killing 1,000 people a year. It's like, okay, we have this issue of police violence. And now it's like there's this big shooting at a school. It's like, okay, put the cops inside of the schools. The armed cops that have been shooting 1,000 people a year, put them inside of the schools. That, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, but we're talking about preventing, you know, ideally preventing another student from shooting up the school, but we're also highly increasing the probability of a cop shooting a kid in school. So, you know, it sounds like a bad idea, but it kind of goes along the lines of this American mind state.
And I don't think that anybody that's listening to our show is naive enough to think that an Australian solution will ever come to exist in the U.S. It's just not going to happen. You'll see a massive civil war before you'll ever see the second go down. It'll take a civil war to take it down.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. Now, so, you know, there's a gulf of differences, right, between when people die, for instance, in Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq or Libya or Yemen. You know, what's going on in Yemen right now is nothing short of a straight up global humanitarian, you know, disaster, right? And yet if you look at U.S. media and stuff, it's like literally nothing about Yemen. I mean, go on any mainstream site right now and look at their front page, and if you see something about Yemen, I'd be like really surprised. But I can't even remember the exact statistics, but it's just so many children every day dying, not only just of being bombed, but they're just starving to death, dying of malnutrition, dying of, you know, illnesses that could be cured. And there's very little to be made of it, right?
And now they're resorting to the absolute last thing they can do, which is fighting back with drones, dude, because they just don't have men. They've lost so many people that now all they have is drones. But I mean, it's effective aerial guerrilla warfare right now.
Yeah, dude. And so first, there's this big difference in opinion. So when 17 kids, let's say, were killed in an airstrike in Yemen by a U.S. drone, basically there's like a small mention of it in the media, and basically most people don't give a shit. I know, because we cover these topics, and most people don't give a shit. I'm not saying our listeners don't give a shit, but most people, generally, you know, general population, they don't care. They don't even care to know, right? Change the situation, and it's 17 kids that die here, and now we're going on week 2 of a constant debate, constant reaction. Kids are out marching, teachers are walking out of class, there's all these calls for gun control, people are going and stocking up on more guns. I mean, there's just this huge, giant reaction. And at the same time, and this is what this article is about, if you guys want to go read along with me. Americans are horrified by mass killings unless the government is doing it. Top story on the antimedia.org. While all this stuff was happening after the shooting, there was some letters that were released because a senator, Tim Kaine, I think he's the guy that ran with Hillary, right? Anyway.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so he asked the Trump administration, what is your justification, for being in Syria and Iraq? And basically, the Trump administration replied back saying, well, we're under the AUMF, which is the Authorization for Use of Military Force, and that the operations going on in Syria and Iraq will be indefinite. And so basically, to make a long story short here, the U.S., while everybody was over here talking about the gun debate and the school shooting, the U.S. announced that our wars in Iraq and Syria are now permanent. Now, if you recall, we're not even officially in Syria, right? We're just on like a, advisory, basis, which is total bullshit. We got troops in there, we got dudes fighting. I don't think our guys have really died yet, but they've been in combat. We killed some Russian dudes just, I think that was early last week, might have been the week before, I can't remember. It's really intense over there, right? The U.S. is now going to be there permanently. So this is now just, Syria is just another country that our empire just kind of put its tentacles into. Obama got us in there saying, oh, we're only going to be there to fight ISIS, and we're going to get them, and then we're going to get out. And now Trump says, nope, we're staying permanently. And I'll tell you what, most people didn't even hear about this. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody is so engaged in talking about this shooting. The government conveniently, while no one was paying attention, was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be in Syria for, as long as we, basically as long as we want, We're probably going to be in Syria until the empire collapses. Let's put it that way, right?
It's probably the only thing that's preventing it, if you really think about it. We're getting all the opium and all the lithium that we need for our future economy of a drugged out and gridded in population where you have an electric car and you're on drugs all day.
There you go. Way to look at the bright side of it, right? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just serious, dude. Like, when you talk to people out there, like, they're so unaware that you have to think it's just this haze of opiates.
Could be, man. We're going to talk some about opiates on Wednesday too, because Jake's got a great article on kratom from today. I don't know if he's going to be able to join us, so if he doesn't, we're going to talk about it on Wednesday. But
it really works.
Yeah, and the FDA is basically trying to make it illegal.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's going to make the opiate crisis worse because a lot of people are using kratom to get off of the opiates. And of course, some of these pharmaceutical companies have been patenting and trying to patent more and more of these kratom alkalines or whatever. I don't know exactly. They're trying to make pills out of them, out of kratom, and patent them. And at the same time, the FDA, of course, is carrying the torch and is going to go try to make kratom illegal so that these pharma guys can start marketing their pills. But yeah, so it goes back to the root issue, I think, behind the cultural violence in the U.S. And I said something last show, and then I made a post about it because I thought it was like pretty profound. Every now and then you say something and you're like, oh, that was actually pretty good. But the thing I said was, how can we prevent violence in the United States when the United States itself is violent, right? And this to me is just something that makes so much sense, right? It's like, okay, the government's going to just permanently be in Syria and we're going to permanently be in Iraq and, nobody even gives a shit. Like, I haven't seen anybody, dude. I have not seen anybody talking about this where it's like, holy shit, we're going to be in Syria permanently now, by the way. It's like, no one even talks about it. No one even cares about it. And then at the same exact time, they're like, wow, I just don't understand all this violence here and kids shooting up schools and, bad things happening. I just really don't get it. We need to do something about it. Like, to me, it makes so much sense that these two things are connected that I just literally are like, dude, I need to smack some sense into these people. How are they sitting here saying, oh, we need to, take away guns from people, or we need to, turn schools into fortresses, arm the teachers or whatever. And then it's like, but let's completely ignore the fact that we're like going around the world, trampling governments at will, dropping bombs on countless countries, and act like the two things aren't connected. It's like, yeah, violence begets violence, dude. That's like
in our history.
Everybody knows that saying. Violence begets violence, and you know what? It's pretty damn true. And the U.S. right now is the most outwardly violent country in the world. So if you project violence outwardly, well, guess what? You have to create a mind state that allows that to happen, right? So you got all this conditioning of, American exceptionalism, might equals right, we can bomb people and it doesn't matter that much. It's to justify the war on terror, you have to defeat empathy, right? You have to say, oh, well, Muslims aren't the same as us, and Middle Eastern people aren't the same as us, and Libyan people aren't the same as us. You got to defeat their humanity in order for the people to say, oh, yeah, you want to drop bombs on those fools, like, literally perpetually? Go for it. We don't give a shit about Afghanis. Like, go ahead and mop them up. We don't care. Shit, drop a nuke on them for all I care, right? That's what some of these people say. And then we're like, gosh, all this violence at home really doesn't make any sense. I just don't get it. It's just like, Jesus Christ, dude. We're so far away from having the conversations that need to be had and I hate to say a conversation as a nation or a national conversation with all that shit. But seriously, dude, like, we're in two countries now permanently, and there's literally no conversation about it. And there's definitely nobody talking about how all this outward violence is what helps create the violence at home.
There's never been a more important time to be able to defend yourself. Can you imagine what kind of blowback is coming our way? I mean, this is again where I say that the American general public is so naive that it almost defies belief sometimes, but not really when you consider the multiple fronts of a silent war and the quiet weapons they're using against us. I mean, when you think about it, when the Berlin Wall, if you really do think about it, when the Berlin Wall fell, it created this window where we were by far the only superpower. China was so far behind us in 1989. I think they've bridged the gap a little, but I don't think people are really aware of what the U.S. has up its sleeve if it really needed to use it. So I don't know, man. I don't think they have anybody but us left to fight, not when you really consider it and how they've really taken over, if not the economic, then the banking systems of every country except for, 3 right now?
Nick.
Yeah, dude. Oh, shit, we got Jake on the line. What's up, dude?
Oh, hey.
Jake.
Hey. I was just on a date with Sarah Huckabee.
There you go.
Sanders. Sarah Huckabee.
Did she throw you off when she had one eye looking at you and one eye at your junk?
Good question. Better answer. Do you guys know that I actually went to high school with her?
Wow.
Well, I take that back then. She's a lovely woman.
Okay. Well, look. She's the daughter of Mark Huckabee, right? What's it? Mike Huckabee.
Mike?
Oh,
yeah,
is
Mike
she?
Huckabee. He was governor of Arkansas, and obviously I despised him and still despise him. She went to my school, Little Rock Central High, and I'll be honest with you, I had one class with her, physics, which I was horrible at. I'll be honest with you, she was inordinately nice. She's a nice person, which is probably how she's gotten to where she is. You have to be able to put on a show of professional niceness to get to that part. But Nick, you just made such a good point in that we're so off from where we need to be, and realistically speaking, the vast majority of people on Earth harbor either hate or fear or both in their hearts, and there's just no way we're going to get to where we need to be with that kind of disharmony in the world, and you see it all over the place, and it's very unfortunate. It's disturbing how hate and fear just literally dominate the headlines on the mainstream news. That's what they want us to feel. That's what they want us to be, and that's what they want us to vibrate out into the universe is hate and fear.
Yeah, dude, because when you're fearful, you're willing to sacrifice plenty of, whatever these guys want. In this case, what we're dealing with right now are, gun rights, right? There's no doubt. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that they're very, very surgical in that they don't want to rouse anger among the population nor unity. If those two things ever happen together, they could not stop us.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I mean, there's no doubt that there's a huge effort right now to basically spread this gun control message. I mean, the AR-15, which is arguably one of the best rifles in the world, alongside of the AK-47, of course. There's this huge effort to get rid of this rifle or to, neuter it in one way or another. And it's very apparent, dude. It's very apparent. And so when they have you all scared, right, after a big shooting like this, or, like the fact that this thing happened so quickly after Vegas, those two things combined adds a lot of fear into the hearts of, the average American person watching this shit on CNN and being like, holy shit, I can't believe this, and we need to do something about these machine guns. And so once they have you scared, once they have you fearful, they can get you to do stuff that you normally wouldn't do, like give up your rights and stuff like that. And, I'm coming from my political perspective. Of course, I'm in favor of gun rights. I don't favor restricting any guns. But I do understand where the people are coming from that think that we need to ban guns. However, of course, I disagree with taking the violent tool out of the hand of a violent person is just going to get replaced with some other tool, some homemade tool, or they're just going to weaponize a car or a truck or a bus or something and just do violence in another way. I really...
dude,
I really don't... Go ahead, dude.
I was a hardcore gun control advocate during my hardcore DNC days, and what you have to understand is the people that believe in gun control, I truly think most of them have fairly good intentions, but I think it's coming from a place of... Here's my problem with most issues like this, and this is why I'm currently at the state I'm in. I genuinely don't think that the reason they want to ban guns is to protect people. I think they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and people don't understand that there is no operation that's going to solve the violent place we're in. Nick, you wrote an article about it. Derek Rose wrote an article about it. Even Justin King did a video about this country is steeped in violence right now. And banning a certain gun, which is a slippery slope because, of course, there's going to be other gun school shootings after they ban the AR-15. You can keep picking off a gun and banning a certain gun and banning a certain gun. Or we can actually start trying to get realistic about how fucked up our society is across the board, from wars to police violence to domestic violence. Until people really start to look at the problem, it's just so myopic, the arguments people are making. It's just myopic, politicized arguments, and they're not really looking at the real issue. I am a proponent for modified gun control to an extent because I just don't. I think at the heart of it, there should be a way to try and determine whether a fucking lunatic is going to have a gun in his hands or not. But I think we're going to have to wait for like advanced AI to do that, because I don't want the government making that decision, because this is the same government that's lying to us to justify going and killing 1 million people in Iraq. So why are they a moral authority on something like this?
It's a horrifying proposition. I really especially don't understand. I mean, if the government ever does get what it wants, it's not going to, if they do it under a Trump presidency, I don't think you're ever going to see an election ever again.
Yeah, dude.
Well, explain.
Look, no,
well,
I mean,
the thing is that they're never going to let it swing back to the Democrat side. I mean, they're not, dude. They see it as a communist insurgency. And there's aspects of it that act like it. So the pot calling the kettle black, though, with the Republicans ever saying anything about people being unpatriotic. So,
yeah, man. I mean, if you give up your gun rights, you open up a whole can of worms, and it's different. Like, you know, people like to compare the U.S. to Australia and Britain and stuff. But
we're so not, because we fought a war against them.
Yeah, it's a little different when you're like this giant empire, and then all of a sudden you're going to give up your gun rights. It's a little different than when you're just some auxiliary country. Not to denigrate the people of Australia or anything, but you know, let's face it, they're more or less kind of.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the UK.
No, not so much the UK, but
that is an example I see of some of my liberal friends. One of whom literally once is proposing we repeal the Second Amendment and saying that we should have similar gun laws as Japan and Australia. I mean, those are the points he's making now.
But just move to Australia. They speak English. You'll be a lot happier over there, dude. It's like California, the whole East Coast. Just go, man.
He lives in Berkeley, but thinks that
he'd be all right. Dude. He wouldn't even notice a difference in culture.
Man. Yeah, no, but Jake, I want to get back to your point, dude, because this is a big discussion that needs to be had. Is, look, I know some people who I think shouldn't have access to guns. Like, I know, not that they're on the verge of violence, but that they're unstable enough that they could easily commit an act of violence with a large act of violence, if they had the access to them. So you're right, dude. There has to be a way of figuring out who's responsible enough to own a gun, while at the same time not relegating that power over to the state, which of course can politicize. If we give them those kind of powers to take guns away from people, the state could easily politicize and say, oh, well, in the situation like DB was bringing up, if for instance, there became a hard takeover of the government, said, okay, well, anyone that is a Democrat can no longer own a gun. You know, Republicans plan on just staying in power forever. Democrats can't own guns no more. So how do we stay away from that extreme while also saying, okay, we're going to evaluate people and see if they're capable of owning a gun? Now, my obvious answer to that is having it done by like I hate to use the example of the NRA because I can't stand the NRA, but something like that where it's like a gun manufacturer / consumer organization that is able to do background checks on people who voluntarily submit to them if they want to buy a gun from the store, and the stores basically have the gun makers have an agreement that we only sell guns to people who pass our own personal private background checks. I mean, that would be an obvious example of what we could do without empowering the government to politicize it and take guns away from dissidents and shit like that. Is you have a quasi-private organization that does gun background checks, before people can buy guns. Go ahead, Jake.
in as much as there is a solution to this, which is, I don't think there is, the very first step would be a national reckoning, possibly even a global reckoning, but it would start with the U.S. We do supposedly set the example for the rest of the world, but a national reckoning over our historical violence and our current violence, and to make it the national issue not just regulating guns among citizens, but curtailing violence and brutality around the world, starting with the military-industrial complex and going down into police and going down against discrimination and all that stuff. That's the only way to deal with this situation in an honest way. That's the only thing that children are going to listen to. Children feel like growing up in this country, I can't even imagine growing up in this country right now with severe mental illness problems or anger management. I mean, it's just like, why would you not turn to violence as the answer when you see, like you said, I mean, you wrote this in your article, Nick. I mean, that is the de facto path we take to deal with problems. You know?
It's the American way.
It's the American way. So I really think there has to be a national reckoning. We're supposedly having a national reckoning over sexual harassment and whatnot. We need like 20 of those.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Seriously, man. And unfortunately, if not, these things are going to keep happening, and they are going to keep happening, even if we did. You know, because it's so deeply ingrained in our society, dude. It's just deeply, deeply ingrained.
Some of these grievances I don't see a way to like actually come to a constructive agreement or, you know, compromise for things. Like, I mean, for instance, like you hear about things like reparations, and I can for sure 100% guarantee you that I've never been related to a slave owner. So how's that going to work with me and my taxes? Like, am I going to pay for a bunch of idiots that look like me's, you know, jackassery? I mean, that's the thing, dude. It's like we have a culture steeped in just the best and the absolute worst of humanity, and I don't know how to reconcile some of the things. Sometimes I think like maybe it's better if we had 3 or 4 little micro nations and we just maybe had the military together. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be really tough to reckon with, dude. I don't know what it's gonna take, man. And I'm not sure people are ever actually gonna learn this lesson. That's the hardest part, is like, are we actually gonna figure this out before we really fuck the planet up or not? You know. But back to this issue of keeping guns out of the hands of people who are going, you know, unstable people or whatever. This one it's so tough because it's also tough just to deal with mental illness by itself. There was recently Trump was talking about reopening those, what were they called, dude? Like basically the insane asylums that they used to have, the government-run ones, right? Trump is like saying we need to look at reopening those, which brings up other questions, because I've had several friends who were actually thrown into mental institutions who I know weren't like really bad. Like they didn't need to be thrown into mental institutions, but it's like they get arrested, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the cops or the people at the station or whatever, they say, oh, take this person to the mental institution instead of the jail. And then, you know, people end up in there for like a week. And what if you think about this nightmare situation where you end up, you get caught in a really bad mood or something, something happens and you're combative with the police, they think you're crazy, they send you into the insane asylum, and just imagine just getting stuck in there for a period of time. That actually happens, dude. Like that happens to people. It sounds like a nightmare situation, but it really does happen. So look, we don't even know how to deal with mental illness. We don't even know how to treat mental illness. I think trying to understand how to keep guns out of people who we think might have these kind of tendencies, dude, it's a really tough task, man. It really is. It's a really tough task. It's
in this case though, these guys botched it for political purposes. I think they threw the fucking bag and did it on purpose, and these guys are all going to go down, dude. I really truly pray they do.
What are you talking about?
Broward County, dude. Broward County sheriffs are being investigated by the entire state now. So, yeah, it's possible.
You mean the ones that stood outside and didn't do anything?
Yeah. It's possible that the entire state's corrupt, but I have a feeling that dudes in Miami really, really, really want to nail these guys. So, I'm really hoping there's not internal shenanigans, but what it looks like to me is that these guys intentionally botched stopping this guy so that this could happen for political purposes.
That'd be crazy.
It would be until you start digging in.
Yeah, I mean, this could be. I mean, eventually, let's play devil's advocate and say that there actually is, some false flag shit going on. Eventually, it's going to be too obvious for people to ignore. An average, everyday people that would never believe in a conspiracy like that would get involved. Maybe this is going to be that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's the first thing I thought. When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. Now, look, there's going to be people that are going to be, Justin King did a video talking about there's a certain percentage of people that will not engage in a fight or flight response during, like, he even said that there's only 4% of the population will kill when in a situation like that. So he's taking that viewpoint of it, but it's hard to believe that I think there were 3 or 4 Rownard County cops that were there and didn't do anything.
Yeah, 4 of them.
Who knows? I mean, Nick, like,
mind-blowing.
We don't want to go. We don't want to immediately go to the conspiracy side of it, but
we don't. But you got to look into it, like Hog's dad and everything, and all. It just all of it, dude. Has there been a funeral yet? I haven't seen one. It's just so much fuckery, dude, and it's so messed up. Just like Vegas, that by the way, they're still now saying now there's multiple shooters in Vegas. Soon they're going to say there was multiple shooters here. It's all a charade, dude. And yes, real people are dying. They're dying so that they can push through an agenda, and the agenda is really simple, so that we're all like enslaved, like for real enslaved. Like they know if we get into a civil war over this gun control issue, they just have to come in and mop up after. All right. So if we're stupid enough to plan to their plans, we're gonna all go down, man, together.
Well,
wouldn't surprise me.
I don't see anything so far that's like makes me think it's a conspiracy. But it is ridiculous that those cops just stayed outside, dude. Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, the thing for me, and the reason why I really don't think these kind of things are conspiracies or setups or anything like that, is just because of what we were just talking about, is that we've got a violence problem in this country, and there's no denying it at all. But I do think that these guys are ready to react. People that have an agenda, they don't need to create events like this. They only have to react to them because these events create themselves.
They just let it happen. You think Pearl Harbor was a conspiracy, or do you think they kind of knew and they let it happen?
I'm leaning more and more. I'm leaning more and more to that. Yeah.
Look, depending on the way you want to define letting it happen. Look, the FBI was warned twice about this kid. The cops were called on him like 30 times or something.
Right.
I mean, there was like a million red flags on this kid. So did they let it happen? Yeah, they let it happen. I don't know if they were aware of the exact event, but they let this kid slipped right through like dozens of times. Plenty of chances for these guys to do something. So yeah, in that way, they let it happen.
It's like a numbers game. You got to put up the pretense that you have law enforcement in the country, but by sheer volume, that people are going to slip through. And so when they do slip through, you're going to take that opportunity. It's called opportunistic ideology, and it's a form of false flag. It really is. I mean, Richard Dolan has been studying this for a while, and this is under the umbrella of a statist operation. You can call it a conspiracy or you can call it failure, whatever you want to call it. You know this stuff's going to happen. And Nick, like you've been saying, and I really am starting to think you're absolutely right. It's all in the reaction. The reaction is the conspiracy.
Yeah. And, CNN just had this whole thing rolled out so quick with the town hall. And, that kid there was a kid that came out and claimed that they scripted the questions for him, which CNN released the emails, and it shows that kid wasn't being fully upfront about what happened, although it still was like they said, no, you can't read what you want to read. You got to answer. You got to ask these questions that you submitted, and that's it. But anyway, CNN had that shit all ready to roll out, and it's not. It's not hard to see that there's like a coordinated anti-AR-15 effort going on, and I don't know. These guys.
Well, the corporate media has gotten progressively more socially liberal, since Obama has been in office. So I think that's another thing you have to look at is it's not necessarily. I mean, I believe in a deep state, but I don't necessarily want to say that like every single media outlet that is covering this story is actually ensnared in a deep state propaganda or anything like that. It's more simply that it's groupthink, it's corporate groupthink, and the tide is turning on socially liberal issues, and it's just like the opportunistic reaction. These companies are looking at how people are going to react to them, and they're playing the field, as in like, if we make this move, more people will like us. And that's what's happening across the board on a lot of issues. Now, I happen to agree with some of the issues that's been going on in terms of discrimination and sexual harassment and stuff like that. But, it's a question of whether we want...
but how can you not? How are those even stands? I mean, this is the most pathetic shit I've ever seen, this Me Too bullshit.
It is, yeah, it is.
Oh, Me Too. Like, mop your shit up, Hollywood. We already knew. We knew before this. The thing is, there's nothing we can do about your little crappy-ass parties you guys have. What can we do? I mean, honestly, the only thing that can happen is the military can just go in and kill all these people. That's about it.
Oh, man.
Crappy-ass parties.
DB's going Alex Jones on him, dude.
Hey, dude, I've been to some of these, and they are some shit parties.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude. I mean, look, it's hard it's hard to get to the root of the issue here. What's that saying? For every 1,000 that are hacking at the branches of tyranny, only one is hacking at the root or something. It's really hard to get down and beneath all the surface level social groupthink, like Jake was saying, that's going on. It's hard to get down to the deep roots of it and understand what's going on. And because of that, everyone's kind of just going in circles. And, again, back to the whole debate being had about gun control right now. It's a very superficial debate that is kind of just going in circles again. Now, getting to the root of those problems would take a lot of deeper introspection and stuff, and I just people aren't ready for that yet. They're just still caught up in whatever they're caught up in. They're not going to pass anything. This is an issue that's going to go on and on and on, and it's horribly sad. I mean, it's disgusting and despicable. And I'll tell you what, the only thing that's actually going to happen out of all this, I'm sure you guys can guess it because it's already happening. They're just going to keep militarizing the shit out of the schools. That's right. The only actual reaction that's going to happen. No guns are going to get banned. Further militarization. Neither side is really going to get what they want, except the thing that both sides want that they don't know they want is that they're going to militarize the shit out of the schools.
Wow.
And yeah, dude. And so that's the only policy change that's going to happen. I don't even think they may arm, they're probably going to let some teachers go armed in some states, but they're just going to allocate a bunch of money to do militarization of schools, like increasing perimeters and surveillance and crowd control and all kinds of shit, whatever it is that they're going to be doing. Like, dude, that's what these guys are that's the only thing that's going to come of all this.
The most ironic thing was the David Hogg kid tweeting that he said, never again or something, only cops in the military should have guns and we should emulate Israel.
Oh my God.
I'm like, dude, like, you do realize that in Israel, like, they have armed trained security at all the schools. Like, they have to. So if that's what we want in society, if we want to listen to this kid, dude, if we want to go full fucking idiot and just overreact, then yeah, by all means, let's do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, poor kid. I mean, he's obvious. I mean, he's traumatized, and his traumatization or his trauma is being exploited. And
yeah,
look, dude, he's a 17-year-old kid. Come on, do you remember?
Yeah, no, he's getting exploited for sure.
I mean, you think this kid is like a part of the deep state? I mean.
Well,
come on,
his dad definitely is. So
his dad is like a rank and file FBI guy. Come on.
Nah, he's not rank and file. I mean, when the Broward County guys have like 4 homes, they're not rank and file, and neither is this guy.
All right, we'll dig up some files. We'll all look at them.
You dig them up. I'm not the journalist.
You're making the accusation, dude.
Hey, I'm saying Google.com, buddy.
I have no reason to look because I have no thought in my head saying that I think that this kid is a deep state operative.
I didn't say that. I said his father is, and all of these guys that have multiple millions of dollars when they're making 100, 120 a year are all operatives, dude.
Again, it wouldn't surprise me, but you got to have evidence.
The evidence is the money trail, and it's gonna. I mean, that's the thing.
That does not prove anything.
You have to account for where you get money. Even if it's a small amount, IRS goes after people that owe like 10 grand.
That would not win in a court of law, dude.
Yes, it would if you had the right lawyer.
Well, look, dude, here's the thing.
Is it going to be a check from the government and on it says deep state false flag operation? I mean, how are you?
No, there's only there's only one group that can do anything.
Look, here's the thing, dude. If there is something of that size going on, the problem is that these things are doomed by the size of them, dude. Like, if it's a one-man operation, one guy pulls off a lone wolf shooting, that's why a lot of these guys, I think, are lone wolves, because when you start collaborating with even one person or two, you start having security breaches, and you start getting caught
because
out.
Nobody even knew when we got to the moon, supposedly, that we were building that. Like, you can keep a secret, dude. Nobody knew about the SR-71, the fucking Blackbird, and Skunk
Well, look, it
Works.
may be that there's parallel narratives. I personally believe that we did go to the moon, but they also faked the moon in case we failed. So that if we had failed, they would have said we got to the moon. I think that's a possibility. I think it's a possibility with a lot of these things. But, I mean, again, it's like...
All I'm saying is that a lot of people keep a secret. You get a non-disclosure signature. If you breach that, they not only take everything away from you, but then you get cancer all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. But see, here's the thing, though, dude. You're talking about two separate things, man. You're talking about the U.S. mission to the moon is something that to keep a secret on is like national security, and it's like something good. When you do something malicious,
repealing the Second Amendment is good for national security when you're the MIC.
Nah, not for the rank and file people, dude. And so look, check this out, dude. There's been so many mass shootings recently, and sure, there's a bunch of like loose ends that don't add up correctly, but there has not been anybody come forward with genuine knowledge of what actually happened and able to provide proof for them. I can't remember a single one. Like, there's been how many shootings in the past 10 years, and we haven't heard a single shred of evidence from anybody about, oh yeah, I was actually involved.
And there are a shitload of people looking for them, too.
Yeah, and dude, people would love to get their hands on that kind of information, and it'd be worth a lot of money. So,
well, how do you explain Wolfgang Halbig then, and basically how they just lost in civil court against him, and now he's going to countersue for Sandy Hook. I mean, the narrative will break down if you dig, but if you don't dig, if you don't really want to see it, you don't see it.
Yeah, but at the same time, you only dig where you know that there's going to be something, right? And if something has gone all these years without ever providing any kind of reward for searching and investigating it, there's not going to be many resources going into that, right? So, look, my official theory on all this stuff is that these things happen spontaneously, and it has a lot to do with negligence. It has a lot to do with these guys these law enforcement not knowing how to wipe their own asses, right? But I've always said this. It's not as important about, who is doing it. It's more important about who's reacting to it and how they're reacting to it. Because chasing these kind of false flags down rabbit holes, they've yet to produce a shred of evidence. So to me, it's not worth it anymore, because it's like you chase a rabbit hole every single time. Never a whistleblower, never a document. I mean, most of these dudes are working off of like fake ass Craigslist ads and like posts on 4chan and shit, right? So like, there isn't genuine evidence of like a false flag type of conspiracy, but almost always there's conspiracies of negligence and complacency. The situation in Vegas rife with just incompetence. And the situation in Florida, just they missed this dude 30 times. That's where the cover-up, I think, tends to happen. It's like, oh, shit, we really fucked up, and we got to try to, make it look like we didn't fuck up too bad. I don't, because to me, dude, the way government works is it works incompetently, not in some super effective, efficient manner where they can carry out false flag attacks and never get caught up on doing them. I think the government is actually inefficient and bureaucratic and prone to mistakes. And so what actually happens is not a conspiracy ahead of time, it's the conspiracy afterwards when they're trying to mop up the mess where they fucked up and missed the details.
If that's true, then we should never repeal the second, because if only those guys are armed, we're doomed.
Exactly, and that's another part of the conversation that people are forgetting to have. It's like, oh, well, we should let the cops, be the only ones with the rifles and stuff. Well, it's like, wait, didn't the law enforcement just fail to catch this guy like 30 times? And you want to have them with the guns? And also they're racist as fuck and they're killing a bunch of people, 1,000 people a year. That sounds like a real dumb idea, right? And so, that's the way I look at it, dude, because believe me, man, I've chased down some of these conspiracies before, and they're intriguing and stuff, but you never end up with any concrete evidence, and so nothing can ever be proved. And while it's cool to have a theory and all, it's like, can't dwell on it too much. You got to wait for someone to come up and blow the whistle. You know what I mean? And when the conspiracies are big, there's a very high chance that someone blows a whistle on it. And saw an interesting article about that. It was actually studied mathematically and stuff. And like I said, the smaller the conspiracy, the easier it is to cover it up. The best conspiracies are only between two people. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that's why most of these attacks are like lone wolf guys, is because the regular ones get caught up. And as much as they had a chance to catch this guy, if you have two people communicating, you have all this evidence, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back Wednesday. Thank you guys. Peace out.
I told you I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing, but call it a reality cause there's no illusion.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.